Welcome to Show Me the Mommy, the podcast where we explore the stories of local moms, business owners, and fascinating individuals in Southeast Missouri. We are your hosts, Laura,
Rory, and Kelly.
Join us as we engage in conversations that cover a variety of topics, from parenting to entrepreneurship and everything in between. This is Show Me the Mommy. Let's dive into our guest, Erin Randol, a licensed clinical social worker who has her own telehealth practice called Sunrise Therapy Services. Her main focus is helping professionals, new moms, and parenting young children. Hello, Erin.
We are so happy you're here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Hi.
Perfection. Listen, everybody's going to eat this up. They're going to love it. Let's just tell us a little bit about your practice, what you do, kind of the background.
Yeah, sure. I graduated with my master's in social work in 2013. And then I went straight into getting my professional clinical licensure, which takes like 2 years. And then in 2016, I passed that test. You have to take a big test for it. And then I've been in the social work field for about 12 years total. And just since the pandemic did I get into telehealth therapy services, which has been awesome. And that's what I do now. I opened my own private practice last summer, and I love it.
Why did you pick the specialties you picked?
You know, a lot of people do go into it picking what their niche and their specialty will be. That wasn't really what happened for me. I kind of just went in, and there was a huge boom in telehealth therapy services during the pandemic, and lots of people needed lots of services. And I started to find a certain population that landed better with me and just kind of where my strengths lie professionally and personally. And then it's just kind of taken off. I haven't really had to advertise that this is my niche or my specialty. And at one point I had like over 50% of my caseload was like pregnant people. And I'm like, well, this is interesting. Maybe this is something that I need to lean into. And I've just really loved it. There's a lot of common life experiences in that population for me that I can bring into practice, and it makes it flow really well. The sessions have seemed to be really beneficial. And I just really enjoy the populations that I primarily work with.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your home life, like your husband, kids. Tell us about all that so we can put that together.
I have lived in Cape County my whole life. I am married. I've been married 9 years, and we have 3 kids, 6, 4, and 5 months.
Oh, busy lady.
Jeez.
It's a lot. But I think that's another reason that this telehealth and the therapy thing has all kind of just unfolded in a way that's been really great for me and my family.
Yeah.
So
do you think that's why you kind of attract the clients that you do, is because you're in kind of that same season of life?
You know, it's interesting because I don't have that in any of my professional platforms. I don't say I'm a mom of 3 young, at least I didn't at first. And I think some therapists have this thing about like it's the universe, right? And that the universe will bring you the clients that are best for you. I think for me, it's just, I don't know, it's just what I offer. And then when the clients come and they stay and we find all this common ground, and it's like, oh, you have young kids? Oh, me too. And it's just this very organic, natural thing that happens, I think, in therapy more than like we even realize. It's just a very cool experience. And yeah, it helps me help them with their experiences too. Absolutely. So I didn't do anything fancy.
Right. Just be yourself.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
And that's where it comes organically, is when you're yourself and you connect with the people.
That is true.
Flows that way.
It does.
Before we kind of dive into kind of the meat and potatoes of our conversation, what would you say to somebody that's a little nervous about starting therapy? Somebody that's never
Good question.
never done it before, but is kind of feeling like they need to.
Oh my goodness, that is a really good question. And
Sorry, that was not on our question list. That was
that. No, I like that question though, because
yeah, it happens a lot. It's interesting. I see it come so many different ways. The question was, what do I say if they're unsure about starting?
Or what advice would you have to anyone that would like to start therapy but is unsure of where to start, or the thought process that goes into starting therapy?
Well, one thing that I think is cool is the client interviewing potential therapist. I think that you need to, try to at least start in a place of empowerment, even when you feel really insecure or unsure how this is going to work. Have questions, know what you need, or know that you don't know what you need. That's a thing, right? Like, I'm coming here and I don't know what I need, but I would just like a better quality of life. Or, right, I'm not in crisis, but this is what I'm dealing with. And then I hope that one thing in the mental health profession that people are experiencing, I hope, is that if I can't land that for you, then I can point you in the right direction and show you who can land that for you. So the hope is that even people who are timid about starting the therapy process have a safe experience right out of the gate. I don't think that's what always happens, and I hate that, but that's the hope. And then I think, I don't know, I go back to being like really assertive, even when you feel vulnerable about this is what I need, this is what I don't need. And hopefully your therapist is kind of asking you those questions too. Another thing that a lot of therapists will offer that you can look for is a free consultation to kind of see if you're a good fit for them before you pay the money or schedule to get that started.
Awesome. You said that your niche was helping professionals. Can you explain exactly what that is?
Yeah, it's kind of another thing that just kind of fell, I don't want to say fell in my lap, but just kind of transpired over time and landed for me. So this is kind of like the caregivers of the world, right? So other therapists, other social workers, educators, healthcare professionals, EMTs, nurses, yes. Those, I have also like students that are going to school for a helping professional, right? Or the spouses of a helping professional is another thing I see a lot because it's very intertwined. It's very enmeshed, that lifestyle and the things that people might be challenged with. So that would be the list of the type of people I see.
Did that explode kind of like during COVID with the nurses and the EMTs? Because I know they were really overwhelmed. Did you see an influx of those type of clients?
That's a good question. I don't know that I would say I saw an influx. I think like an influx specific to the pandemic. I almost want to say the influx is that companies are more on board with offering mental health services, and there's these big companies that you can contract with as a mental health professional, and that these employers go with or insurance goes with, and a lot of them are telehealth, which is how I fell into the telehealth realm of it. And people will tell me that all the time. My company or my husband's company offers this, and I just thought I would try it out.
Okay.
And so that's been really cool.
That's interesting.
So nice.
It's so nice.
Yeah. Because a lot of employers, like that you have to fight for some things. And I think that COVID really shed a light on mental health.
You know what else you just made me think of is I wonder too if my schedule, because I do have my own practice, I make my own hours, how best works for me and my family. So they're not evening hours and they're not weekend hours anymore. And so I think I attract the people who have 3 12-hour shifts a week that can meet with me anytime on Friday or Monday. Or I attract the teachers that are available at 3 o'clock or 3:30.
Right.
And the stay-at-home moms that are like, okay, nap time's at 10, right? And so that works out really well for me because we all love a good nap.
Nap time is also at 10.
Yeah. So it works really well. All of those things kind of falling into place.
Okay.
So we wanted this episode to be about postpartum depression.
Yeah.
Explain the difference between just like the baby blues and full-blown postpartum depression.
Yeah. Ugh. So I could go. Yes. So I would say that the difference is a little bit of a fine line. But the significance of the symptoms, maybe how long they linger, those things would be differentials for me of it's baby blues, a rush of hormones versus, okay, maybe this is something we need to look into a little deeper. This might be hanging out with us a little bit longer, more severe. So it's a broad question to answer, but I would say that honestly, either way you slice it, if it's baby blues or postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, what have you, it's worth admitting that it's happening. Right? Like it's worth saying out loud or saying to a safe person, hopefully if you have one, that like I'm feeling this, I'm experiencing this. And either way you slice it, I think baby blues or postpartum depression, I would ask my clients, like, are you safe mentally, physically, right? Like, how are you going to be safe? And then also being the one who offers the client baby blues or postpartum depression, like, this is what I have to report and this is what I don't, because I think people come in real scared. They're like, why am I having these terrible thoughts? Why am I, this is terrifying. This is, I'm a terrible mother. Or, I don't know if I should be here anymore, those kind of things. And to really line out, like, this is a safe place. Only at this point would we have to seek help. And even then, I'm right there with you. Like, I'm going to be doing it with you. I'm not going to, right? You're not in danger here. Or at least hopefully they feel that way. So I kind of beat around the bush on your question, but I think either way you put it, if you're going through something that you're not feeling like yourself and it's not going away, then I would just start, I would explore that.
So what are some signs? Like, because, being a new mom is just a tornado already and you're just making it. So what signs that people should be like, I probably need to seek out some help?
I would say, well, I want to say not feeling like yourself, but there I go again with a broad answer.
I think it is such a broad thing because it looks so different for everybody.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that thoughts that feel scary, when you feel hopeless, when you feel like you're a bad mom or someone could be doing it better, and also like testing that information, right? Like, does everyone else co-sign this idea? And if not, then maybe your brain is playing tricks on you, right? And how are we going to trust our brain again? I would say mainly thoughts, also energy, mood, irritability, frustration. You're snapping at people a lot. The thoughts feel like the biggest ones, but
What
also,
are, like, specifically, what are the thoughts?
well, I think that if we're in postpartum depression land, the thoughts can be suicidal, self-harm, I'm terrible, right? Very self-deprecating, self-critical. And then in anxiety land, we're terrified. We're terrified that something bad is going to happen at any moment. And we can get, they call them intrusive images, right? Where you like see something bad happening and it's just absolute. Are you okay?
I think I'm in anxiety.
Laura's like, it's me. Zoned out, Erin. It's me.
You're disassociating.
I lost me for a hot sec.
I am. All right. I'm back.
That, as I say, disassociating, that's another one that happens a lot. And I didn't even know that word. Even as a therapist, that was like a big word for me to learn, that basically we're zoning out. We feel like we're not in our own body. We look at ourselves in the mirror and we don't know who we're looking at anymore.
Yeah.
So
Laura's losing it.
Check.
I do have pretty. I mean, I don't know if it's anxiety, like, because my sister has anxiety.
Sure.
So she's like, I can't go anywhere. She can't do anything. But I am terrified all the time. But I think most are you not terrified all the time?
Oh, yeah.
Your kids,
Yeah.
Stuff's going to happen to your kids or,
It's my worst fear in life. So,
You make a good point.
I have to disassociate and stop thinking those thoughts or it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and those are the skills that people can sometimes learn through lots of different things that make them feel like themselves again, right? Some people it's just prayer or exercise or just music they used to like. So not everyone like needs to come to therapy to get out of crisis, right? And some people aren't even in crisis when they come to therapy. And I think this anxiety that we're feeling as moms does definitely have a normalcy to it. And then I'd be curious, like, what's the intensity? How much of your day is it taking up, right? Like, how many hours are you stuck in anxiety land? Is it affecting your quality of life? Are you in crisis mode, survival mode, living, or thriving? And we kind of like take it from there. Right?
No, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm fine.
And
I'm here.
Those are the things I would ask, right? And then, and so you make a good point. How much of it is normal? And then there's like a sub-bullet point of how much is it impacting your life, even if it's normal. And then that's where we kind of go from there.
Okay.
I know for me, I mean, my youngest is 7. So, I mean, it's been a minute since I've had little ones. But I know for me, I didn't really recognize that I had postpartum anxiety or depression until I was kind of out of it and looked back and I was like, oh yeah, I was probably a little depressed there.
Yes. And yeah, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how you do it all. I still haven't figured that out, right? I do this 3 days a week, see people with this, if not more, and I still haven't figured that part out. How do you know that you're sleep deprived, or you haven't eaten yet today, or you have 2 other kids that need you?
Yeah, because I mean, even if you are sleep deprived, I mean, when you've got all these kids and a family and a job, like, I mean, what are you supposed to just...
You're in the trenches.
Take a nap at 10.
You are in the trenches, and yeah, not everybody gets that nap at 10. It's
Yeah. So if you're in the trenches, I mean, it all seems overwhelming. It all seems, and isn't that a thing with trauma that when you're in it, you're go, 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 you'll survive. But the minute you get out of it, that's when you get to go back and look, and then everything starts to kind of come down.
Yeah. Oh man, yes. I have a hard time answering questions easily because everything feels so layered and loaded.
It is, yeah.
Nuanced. Like my brain goes a few different ways on that one. One is that we have these stress responses. Some people call them trauma responses. Or I also do like parts work where we have these parts that show up for us. And they often have good intentions, but I'm going to keep you on your toes. I'm going to make you self-critical so you don't screw that up. I'm going to like make you triple check your planner so you don't miss anything. And a part of us can maybe say like, okay, I actually like that part of me. And then maybe we can also recognize that that part isn't actually helping as much as we need it to help because it's keeping us from feeling calm, confident, right? We don't feel as connected to other people because we're in the thick of it. We're in the trenches. And so to start recognizing what part is showing up, even if it is after the traumatic event or the traumatic period, so that we can learn from that and start to recognize how our body thinks it's protecting us and try to figure out other ways that we can still be safe and not have to, triple check the locks on our doors, for example, or like, have these images of bad things happening to our kids and kind of see where that can go. I want to clarify, though, I just said not have intrusive images. That part isn't super controllable. It's not the image itself that we should try and get rid of. It's how we respond when it happens. I just want to clarify.
Okay. No, that's important.
Because people will be like, something's wrong with me.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I understand that your quality of life feels like it's not as good as you want it, but it's not so much that something is wrong with you as your brain is doing what a brain does. A brain thinks it's supposed to protect you, and it's trying to protect you. You don't co-sign the ways that it's showing up for you right now, so let's work on that. But man, this nothing is wrong with you thing, really, that's a big thing for me.
It's coming into the nothing's wrong with you. I think we also have we overdone it? Like where everybody's diagnosing themselves with everything all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, is everything a trauma response?
Or, like, I saw
Emotional damage.
I saw a thing one time. It was like the people now. It was like, my parents made me wash my hands. Trauma, like everything has been.
Oh my!
Everybody's a narcissist. Everything's trauma. Have we gone too far?
I think that. Have we gone too far? The short answer is
probably loaded again.
Yes, it's so loaded. The short answer is probably yes. The long answer is if you come from a place that people are probably doing the best they can where they are, and they're probably just trying to make sense of what happened to them or the world around them, then maybe we haven't gone too far, but let's maybe figure out a different way to look at the world sometimes.
There's so much information out there.
Yes.
So we probably haven't gone too far. We probably haven't gone far enough. I bet there's probably way more people not seeking out help than seeking it out and self-diagnosing. But have we, the self-diagnosing, the internet, the WebMD, that's probably where we've gone too far.
Not everybody needs or even has a diagnosis. There's a certain criteria that we use to diagnose people, and you might have symptoms of anxiety, but you might not qualify for anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
And I still see those people as my clients, right? There's still things that they might want to work on or work towards, but not everybody has a diagnosis. Not everybody needs a diagnosis.
And you don't have to have a diagnosis to seek therapy, right?
No. I will caveat that and say insurance kind of plays their game.
Gotcha.
With needing a diagnosis to bill insurance. I'm private pay, so diagnosis don't mean much to me.
Right.
The only reason I would dive into a diagnosis if it'll help someone with their healing journey.
Yeah.
Because there are some
They want a label.
right
Or services. To get
services and like the modality of therapy you use is oftentimes specific to the primary complaint, the primary
Right.
issues that they're having.
So how soon after giving birth can postpartum depression develop? And is there any risk factors that increase the likelihood of it?
Yes. How fast? I think that can vary, but I know people that like while they're still in the hospital after delivery start to feel just this rush, this surge of emotions, hormones, whatever might be happening with them. And I think that's another tricky part because like, is it the medicine, right? Is it because I just pushed out a human being for 24 hours? And then people can kind of, I'm going to say gaslight themselves, but I'm using that term very lightly, and not recognize the symptoms. So as soon as you have the baby, and then sometimes I have it, see it have a delayed onset where it could be a few months down the road even that people are dealing with the symptoms of postpartum mental health concerns. And then what was the second part of the question?
Any risk factors?
Yes. So if you have depression, anxiety, OCD, anything, mental health concerns before you get pregnant, or if you have previous pregnancies where you had postpartum mental health concerns afterwards, it increases your likelihood the next pregnancy and the next pregnancy to have those symptoms and even more of those symptoms each time you do that.
So is there shame in admitting you have postpartum depression? And if so, how do you deal with it?
Wow, yes. And I think this is also interesting on like the cultural differences and how people come to me from different parts of the country, different backgrounds, different family dynamics. Definitely shame, blame, guilt. I would say all of them can surface. How to deal with it, man, that I feel like back to admitting that it's even happening, I feel shameful. Man, even saying that out loud can be really challenging for people. I feel guilty. I'm to blame. Maybe I did something wrong in my pregnancy to cause X, Y, or Z. And just kind of, recognizing that that's happening would be a really big thing. And if you have a safe person, sometimes that's your spouse, your best friend, your journal, your relationship with God, like I would take that somewhere because that is very heavy to carry alone. And then that's really a big problem that I see. People are like, I have nowhere to take it.
Because if you're ashamed, why would you reach out?
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think that the shame one of the languages that I hear about this is shame, blame, and guilt can hide behind the veil of consciousness. So we don't even know that it's running the show sometimes. And we're like, man, why am I so hard on myself? Why am I X, Y, Z? And oftentimes I'll find that that's the little things running the show. So I think
That's deep.
yeah.
Do you feel like there's a stigma in admitting that you need to seek professional help?
So much stigma. I mean,
what do we do about that? How do we?
Well, okay, back to the shame thing, right? So if they are ashamed in trying to, sometimes just calling it for what it is, but
That's
how
big.
do they separate that? So instead of it saying, oh, it's just my internal dialogue and it's, I'm so ashamed and all, or I feel shame, how do you separate that and say, nope, that's shame talking,
right?
not you, and this is how we know that it's to get help?
Oof. There's
It's hard.
It's hard.
It is hard. There's actually a therapy modality called internal family systems that I personally like to use a lot, IFS. It's the parts work thing. And it has like 6 steps, literally steps, to teach you how to do that because it is so complex, right?
Okay, something for somebody who knows nothing.
Well,
Step 1.
yeah, label it, right? And sometimes this can just be like when... I'm going to ramble. Like when I start to slouch, right? I'm feeling shameful. My body is telling me that I feel shameful. Some people, it's like when I get this image or it keeps taking me back to a memory, or self-talk, you suck, right? like you totally suck, you're a bad mom, you can't handle it, then, oh, that's that part, right? And there's other ways to recognize it, but that would be step one. And then it kind of gets deeper, right? And step two is like, what does it want you to know? What's its role in your system? And kind of answering those questions. And I will say this, I know I'm kind of biased saying this, but I think this work is much safer done with a therapist because that's already a lot to unpack individually. But you could probably ask yourself some of those questions, and then it kind of goes on over time. Some people can do this process with shame, blame, guilt, or whatever part is running the show in kind of just a day, a week. Some people take months and months and months.
Right.
But I think they call it like unblending, right? So like some people even name it. Like I've had somebody call it like their high school bully or Ursula or something that you're like, okay, that's that talking. And maybe you just start there. Which I think people get like, oh man, that's all I do right now.
Right. And so if your children are fed, clothed, and everything else, then all their basic needs are met, then that voice is probably the shame. It's probably something to point out, because I think it does become such a normal thing that you're like, no, that's just me. I am just bad. I am just this.
I think, what is your measuring stick, right? Like maybe we recognize shame is happening, and then we look at our measuring stick. I wouldn't even go for what is a good mom if your shame is this loud. I would go, what's a neutral mom? What's a mom that's not causing harm a majority of the time, right? And I use that term loosely too, because harm, some people are like, I talk to them, wrong, or whatever their triggers are. And so I would say, like, what is your own personal measuring stick? Are they bathed? Did they get where they need to go today? Did they eat something, from a Pop-Tart to whatever is okay with you?
Because that can look different for everyone.
So different. Yeah. I feel like that's the theme of this whole conversation, is how broad these things can land for people. But yeah, we talk a lot in therapy about measuring sticks. How are we going to measure? And then another thing you could do that might be more tangible for people is like 0 to 10, right? 0 to 10 today, how shameful do I feel? 0 to 10, how much do I think I suck today? And then what would my kids say? Like if I asked little Johnny, like, how much do I suck today, little Johnny, hypothetically, right? Would he be like 10 out of 10?
I sometimes ask my kids those questions because they're honest.
Yeah, I know.
Do they humble you?
Like, oh, they do.
Well, and Kelly, like that right there would be part of my measuring stick, right?
Yeah.
Because like a kid who's honest with their parent typically has a safe parent. So if they're going to be like, you suck, I'd be like, thank you. Right. I really, like when
That's true.
When my
That's
4-year-old
true.
says you're grumpy, I feel so oxymoron, but I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, seriously,
You feel safe?
I'm like, she can tell me that straight to my face, and so that's my measuring stick, right? Like,
Maybe I need to make my kids feel a little less safe at times.
right? Mom, you're really grumpy.
I'll let my daughter have the third bag of popcorn, and she tells me I'm rude.
If somebody's coming at, like, they've got this going on, until they can see somebody professionally, what are some coping strategies or techniques that new mothers can kind of use?
Yeah. I'm going to say self-care is overrated, but I mean that it's too pumped out for where people are. It's not meeting the needs. It is not.
And how does it even happen?
Dude,
How does it happen?
So self-care, if you want to use that term, I would encourage you to redefine it for yourself. Am I drinking water today? When? Right? Versus like going to get my nails done or whatever that might look like in the broader spectrum of things. So I think that basic needs checklist of food, water, shelter, safety, right? And kind of how can you meet those things? Or what would be really cool is if you have people in your life that can help you meet those things, right? Delegation, I think, is a huge tool. Back to labeling it, just to begin with, I'm hungry, right? Mm-hmm. I would really like a shower. Those kind of things, I would start there. And I don't know, I keep going back to a safe person, and I know not everybody has one, which is another huge block in healing and journey and even getting help. But I would say, what do you need, right? And if it's laundry, if it's your basic needs, then how can we just do a little bit at a time? I would say a big skill is like one step at a time, one literally like hour, 30-minute increment at a time.
That's so helpful.
Mm-hmm.
When you are like staring down a mountain, it's helpful to think in seconds sometimes.
Another one, and this, again, I just want to say, like, this might not land for everybody. These are just ideas. But another one is this idea of trying to be in the moment, because I think our brain can kind of spiral of all the things we have to do, or back to anxiety land of all the bad things that might be happening. And so one thing, a lot of people have heard of grounding techniques, right? Try to be like mindful in the moment. One that I have found that lands because it's so easily reachable for new moms is it's called like I'm aware, right? And you do it inwardly is the easiest thing. So you might be holding your baby and you're aware of how like heavy they are in your arms. Like that's it, right? Or like I'm aware that my jaw's tight right now and I'm feeling like a little anxious. I'm aware that I'm thirsty. And that's all. That's the whole exercise. And what that does is it just lets you kind of check in with yourself, check in with your body, come back and kind of have a foot in awareness versus spiraling, honestly. Yeah. And a big thing with this I'm aware is there's no follow-up work. We're not going to like, oh, my jaw is tight, let me work really hard to unclench it. We're just aware. Like that's the whole thing. And then, I would go back to this redefining what self-care is going to look like for you. Another thing I would throw out there is proactive or things we do before the problem happens is the most effective way to have skills, right? So setting ourselves up for success as much as possible before the problem, whatever the problem might be. Packing the diaper bag before the next time we're going to leave the house, right? This proactive type skills really seem to help people. And then they learn to like trust their judgment again, right? Like I knew I was going to need extra formula, or I thought about that. I threw in extra diapers and like, okay, maybe I can do this. Just one little thing at a time. They start to trust their judgment again.
And I think it's important to recognize when we do show up for ourselves versus only catching when we're not showing up and when we fail. I think it's really important to recognize when we do get it right.
Yes, this parts work thing that I lean into with a lot of people, it talks about like coming from a place of calm and confidence, compassion, and it's like, okay, I can like give those to people, and like, can you give it to yourself? And I'm not even talking about like I'm awesome. I'm just talking being neutral at this point. Like I'm okay. I'm safe right now, right?
I deserve to exist.
Or like,
That's true.
right.
That's true.
Or like, if it's a traumatic birth or a hard birth, like it's over, I'm safe now, right? Just these like self-talks that just are almost neutral in language that we can offer ourselves. If we don't want to say, oh, I'm so great, I packed the diaper bag perfect this time, maybe it's like, all right, I did that, and we just move on. Yeah. Whatever you can tolerate, whatever meets you where you are that moment, that day, right? Those are the biggest things I would start with.
We've used postpartum depression and anxiety a lot interchangeably here. Do they coexist, or what is like the keys to the depression?
Yeah, they definitely coexist. I would say the depression, these really hopelessness, right? Helplessness, kind of empty, don't want to be here, I suck language, right? That self-critic is real mean to us. That's just a little bit of it. And then the anxiety land is like worry. We're frightened.
Okay.
You're terrified that something bad is going to happen at any moment, or maybe something more specific. But I would say those two things, without listing all the criteria for it, would be the biggest differentiators. And those are often seen together.
Yeah.
And I want to say, too, that other things can be postpartum. Postpartum OCD is a thing. I've even seen a lot of people struggle with like ADD, ADHD type symptoms. And then it's back to like kind of, well, which one is it? Is it that I don't have enough sleep? Is it that I just have too many things to think about right now? Or is my brain really in a fog, right? Is my brain really
It's kind of like the Kit Kat. Like once you eat a Kit Kat and you're like, oh, never mind, I was just hungry. Like once you get a nap and you're like, never mind, I was just tired. I do that a lot. I'm like, I'm losing it, I'm cracking. And then I'll have a nap and I'm like, never mind, guys, it's okay. It's okay, I just needed to sleep.
Yes. Absolutely.
So back to your knowing your physiological needs, right? And then like, let me go ahead and meet those. And then we'll talk and see if this is still a
That's
thing.
that's a really good point. Like, okay, a shame part, I know you're showing up again, or self-critic part, there you are again. And almost like, can you give me a second?
Yeah.
Right? Like this internal dialogue of, just give me a second. Like, come back at 5 o'clock. If you need to come back at 5 o'clock. Or let me step outside, or let me do this. And then, or a big one, if you really feel like getting after it, is like, let me see if I can handle it without you telling me how much I suck.
Yeah.
And if I suck, then come back.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I really blow it,
Talk back to it.
Yeah. No, it is. It's a dialogue, because one of those steps in that 6-step thing is like unblending, right? So you're like, okay, I see you part.
Yeah.
Give me a second, right? Can you please give me a second? So again, this is all very broad, and it depends on how these parts are showing up for you and if you're safe. But I would,
My doctor puts them in a chair. Puts it in a chair, makes talk to it.
Oh,
Yeah, put it in the chair. So it's a bad chair. When you come in there, you're like,
Time out
look at
chair.
that chair.
Time out.
It's a bad chair. But it's a way, I guess, to separate it.
It is. Yep.
Make you talk to
So
it.
I know it's a little less common, I think, but what about like postpartum psychosis?
Oh, yes. I do not think that I've had any clients actively on my caseload with postpartum psychosis to speak on like my professional firsthand experience with it.
What are some warning signs?
Yeah.
If someone was maybe...
Oh, it's scary. I think it's back to this terrifying thing. Back to if you have safe people that are telling you, hey, you're not yourself, like what's going on here? If you have thoughts that are extremely disturbing and won't go away, or they'll go away, but when they come, they're super, super intense. I wouldn't automatically say that's enough to say it's psychosis, but definitely enough to be aware of it and see what's going on. If your brain is telling you to do things that are normally outside of your character and things that you wouldn't have done before the baby, right? Then I would say that's cause for concern.
Is this something you think people can recognize in themselves?
That's a good question, because I feel like a lot of people, like if you see it on the news and they have
Does it happen gradually, or is it just like
and they
over the
were they aware? Did like that's
I guess by definition, psychosis, you wouldn't be aware.
right.
I would say, like, oh man, I would say they know they're not themselves, but I don't know that they can differentiate if what they're thinking and feeling isn't the truth.
Yeah. So this is for their caregivers in life, right? Like you're a person that do not pass go straight to hospital. Like
Grandma's
you cannot handle this on your own.
Best friends need to be aware if you see this in your friend to take it seriously.
It takes a lot of strength too. Back to what Rory was saying about like recognizing your wins or your strengths. Like I think that would take a lot of strength to say like, I'm not where I want to be right now, or I'm doing this thing and I actually don't really care that I'm doing it, but like maybe that's not what I should be doing, whatever that is. Psychosis. So you might be hearing things, right? You might be hearing voices. You might be seeing things that are really scary, or again, telling you to do things that you wouldn't normally be doing. And then these plans to harm yourself or others, those are big indicators that you would want to.
So it does, instead of your internal dialogue, does it sound like an outside entity? Because, we all I talk to myself all day long,
I think it can go both ways.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that you can see or hear things talking to you, or things that are, and then there's these parts or hormones or chemical imbalances that are happening, and you can't differentiate. Is that really me? Do I need to do that? Another thing that kind of makes mental health, psychosis, and who we are hard to differentiate is this maternal instinct, this intuition that a lot of moms have naturally. Well, my intuition, it's so strong. Is it my intuition or is it my anxiety? And so you kind of have to navigate that. Usually intuition kind of is like, okay. And fear is like terrifying, right? So usually if you have an intuition and like something terrifying is going to happen and there's really no foundation for why you think that, it's usually your brain not being very nice to you. But if you think of something, you're like, man, I think something's wrong with my baby, right? And you feel it in your gut, and it's like, okay, then I would give that attention. But it's hard to differentiate those at first or for a while.
If a woman has listened to this podcast and they realize that a lot of it fits, they are struggling with it, and they're just in that moment, they're kind of realizing, what advice would you give them right now in that moment?
I would say good job being aware.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Way to go.
Pat yourself on the back.
10 out of 10, A+ job. Good job making the time to listen to this podcast, to give yourself an outlet to do something for yourself, even if you're listening to this and doing dishes and feeding a baby at the same time. Good job. I'm proud of you for listening and recognizing it. And
Nice. Oh my God. Why are my eyes wandering?
Who's cutting onions in here?
I needed to hear that.
Straight to
I just
me.
need somebody to say, good job. I know. I'm doing a good job. Did you trigger me? What is it? We're all crying. It's therapy. It's therapy.
that's it. Because these people will be like, oh, it's such a small...
business card.
Send us the bill for this session.
Gosh, even the small wins are a win, aren't they? Or back to this neutral conversation, like even you listened to this, you recognize that these things do land for you. Maybe we just sit with this for a second, and then tomorrow or in an hour or next week, we say, okay, maybe I should act on that. And then what does that look like for you, right? Which is kind of the question we just talked about. Is that just calling the 988 and talking to someone? Is that reaching out to a safe person? Is that picking up a water bottle more often throughout the day so that you start to feel healthy again? And yeah, even if you don't say good job to yourself right now, like, let me say it for you. And then just offer yourself like, okay, I did that. I got that done.
So we're proud of you.
We're proud of you.
Good job. Good job.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
No, that's why she does what she does, I bet. She knew it. She knows she was good. All right. So
So this is absolutely incredible. I am so excited to share this with everybody. And I am so glad that you were here and just shared your expertise on all of this. You're so knowledgeable.
Thank you.
Honor.
Thank you.
I feel like I just had a session.
so helpful. Yeah, for sure. And we're proud of you.
Yeah.
We're proud of
That's
you.
the takeaway. We're proud of you.
Yes. Thanks for having me. This was really fun.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Bye. Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode from Show Me the Mommy podcast. Go ahead and follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Show Me the Mommy podcast. You can keep up to date with every episode we release and new guests that are coming our way. See you guys soon.